welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. Sitting in front of us, I have the RCBS 502 scale. I have a few other items. I'll talk about these items here in a minute. And I have a new bowl on my scale. I have it zeroed out, but this indicator arm is not coming up to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this wheel clockwise as I look down to it, or should I say I'm threading it in, trying to bring the scale to 0, and it's not zeroing. So this video, my objective of this video is to show you one of the techniques that I like to use to zero, or should I say calibrate, one of these balance scales. This technique that I'm going to be sharing works on the 502 scale by RCBS. It also works on the 505 scale, and you can also do this same technique on the RCBS 1010 scale. I'm going to share with you some of the items that are laying out on my bench. Right now I have a Phillips screwdriver, a flashlight, which might or might not be needed, torpedo level, pair of lineman's pliers because I need the flat jaws on them, pair of diagonal cutters, I have a utility knife. If you have a powder trickler available, that would be a good tool to use. And last but not least, I have a 12 gauge. It doesn't really matter what shotgun you're using. This is a shell that I found out at my local shooting area. It looks like somebody had tried to shoot it, but nothing had happened. But really what I need is what's inside here, and this is number 8 shot. I'm also going to have a small pan to put the shot into. Okay, so I've already tightened the screw in all the way on the scale, and the next thing I want to do is I want to verify that the surface of what I'm trying to calibrate the scale on is level, or at least close to it. So in our case, you can see that the bubble of the level is showing that we're on a good table. From here, I don't need my level anymore, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this shotgun shell open. The reason I mentioned the flashlight is because you might need to look into the shell to find out where the wad is. You see that? You can see where the shot is up at the top, and you can see where the wad portion is right there by the number 8. So that gives me an idea of where I can safely cut this shotgun shell open. Because what I really need is the shot inside. I'm going to use that shot to calibrate my scale. There we go. I just punctured through. Now I'm just going to start cutting around this shell. There it is. I have it cut in half. Be careful right here at this point not to cut yourself. This portion has the powder and the primer that looks like they tried to fire it. I'm going to set that aside. I don't need my utility knife anymore, so I'm going to put that aside. And now inside you can see part of the wad with the shot. So I'm going to actually get my utility knife one more time. Said I was finished, but I'm not. Just going to come down the side. I'm going to cut down into the side of this case. Nothing too crazy. So I gave it a nice little cut down there. So it's nice and open. I'm going to get the bowl, and hopefully the shot will come out. In our case it did, no problems. Throw that piece away, and I'm going to take the shot and pour it into my little bowl here. So now I have a bowl full of shot. Let's go ahead and set that aside. All the plastic parts that were left over from the shotgun shell, we're going to set those aside for now. We don't need that anymore. Now, if you have a trickler, this would be a good time to take your trickler and just pour the shot into the trickler. And I like to kind of wiggle it to get shot into the pipe here of the trickler. I'm going to set the trickler next to the pan on the scale. And from here, I'm slowly going to add shot until my pan, or should I say until my scale starts to show signs of it wanting to zero. See that? We've got too much. I'm going to take my pan off, dump a few back. Nothing too crazy. I just want to get the scale to zero, so I'm using the shot to help that happen. Now when you're doing this with your scale, make sure that your little weight right here is right on the zero notch. And make sure you're also on zero here. And that this foot is in. So again, I'm going to continue to trickle. See this raising up? We're getting close. Let me zoom in a little more. So my plan is to go just a little bit beyond zero. I want to go just a tad higher than zero. So I'm adding them one or two at a time. See, that was a little bit too high. So I'm going to remove like one piece out of that bowl. Hopefully I can get it out with this screwdriver. Now let's see what the scale does. I want to just barely be past zero. Let me remove one more piece. Let's see what happens. So now we're right on zero. Let me get this to stop wobbling here. Thing I like about these scales is they're magnetically dampened, so it doesn't sit there and bounce all day. Now we're actually very close to what we need. See that? Whoops, sorry about that. But I want to go just a little bit beyond it. So I'm going to go ahead and back out for a second. Now, I had that little BB, that little piece of shot left over. Bear with me, this camera angle is not very good. Let's check one more time and see what we're looking at. So we need to get a little bit above zero. So we'll back out. Now that we're real close, I'm going to remove the trickler out of the scenario here. So I don't really need any more BBs. I have this one in my hand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lineman's pliers, I'm going to set the BB in there, and I'm going to smash it. My plan is to get it very flat. The reason I want it flat is so that I can cut it in half or maybe a quarter. So again, let me smash it again. I'm trying to get it really small. Trying to spread it out. Basically what I'm doing is I'm cutting the BB in half or in smaller pieces. So from here I'm going to use my diagonal cutters and I'm going to cut that piece in half and see what happens. Bear with me, this is a little bit difficult to do. Okay, there's half there. I have two pieces. So I've smashed one in half and I've cut it down. So I'm going to take the smaller of the two and I'm going to lay it in the tray. Look how it affected our balance. It raised it up just a hair past zero. And that's what I want, because if I turn this wheel out, not in but out, meaning I'm raising the scale, this raising of the scale will allow me to find zero right on the money. So I'm going to zoom out and show you what I did. I was bringing this wheel out. See, if I go up or down, it affects how the needle is in relation to zero. From here, I'm almost ready to finish with my calibration of this scale. You can see that my scale is on zero now. Even if I bump it a little bit and get it moving, it'll come back to zero because of the amount of weight that I have in the bowl. So now it gets very simple. I take the bowl off the scale, or should I say the pan full of lead, take this piece off, and you'll notice that there's a screw in the center. I'm going to get my screwdriver and I'm going to take this screw out. Set that aside and you have this little bowl here. The shot that I had in my pan that it took to zero the scale, I'm going to pour into this little bowl. Make sure you pour it all in there. Okay, so I have this little bowl full of shot. From here, I'm going to put the screw and the pan back together. So now I have that shot inside of here. It's trapped inside. Hang this back on the hook, and when I put my pan on, if all goes well, we should have a very good zero on this scale. Let's take a closer look. So now we have our scale zeroed. Now my recommendation would be to verify it against another scale. Right now I have my Frankfurt Arsenal scale digital sitting on the table. I have a little pan sitting on it, and in my hand I have a 180 grain 30-06 bullet. I'm going to turn the scale on and let it zero to that pan. I set my bullet in there and I get a reading of 165 grains. So let's check that on our RCBS balance scale on our 502 and see how it compares. So remembering that number, 165. $50, 150, 155, 160, and moving this up to 5. Let's see how this does. We should find that our 502 scale with that bullet should read 165 grains. Looks like we're pretty close. If I back off this small weight by 1, that would be approximately 164. You see how this went higher. It means this little weight needs to go up. That right there should be 165. And as you can tell, the scale is pretty close to 0. So now let's try another item to compare the two. In my hand I have a cast bullet. It's a 9mm bullet. I'm going to turn my scale on to 0. This bullet is approximately 125 grains, 124, 125, and with the liquid ALOX, the scale here is saying that it weighs 131.5 grains. So let's take a look and see what we can find with our RCBS 502. So we're at 131.5. So let me see, 131.5, 105, 10, 15, 20, 25, 131.5 should be approximately right there. So let me check that weight. And see. Right there should be 131.5. Looks like we're pretty close. Let's check one more item. Okay, so my scale over here is zeroed. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to trickle in a few pieces of lead into this scale. Whoops, let me zero it again. Scale turned off. I'm just going to trickle a few pieces of lead into it, and let's see what happens. I'm just going to get a lightweight, something very easy to weigh, something that might be, let's look at that, 4 grains, assuming we'll just pretend that that is a pistol load of powder. So it says that we were at 4 grains. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the 502 up to 4 grains. I'm going to take this, pour it in the pan, and we should be very close to 0. Let's take a look. Looks like we're doing great. So now we have our scale calibrated. We put some heavy weights on it. We put some lighter weights on it, and we put some very light weights on it. And they're pretty close as far as their calibration. I hope this video was useful for you. I hope you found some good information in it. Again, I want to say thank you for having interest in my channel. Thank you for your support. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to leave comments. And again, I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.